All over a record set of numbers and of course great performance by the component industry in India. And I'm joined by the president Sunjay Kapur. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. A record set of numbers, sir. Good growth, robust sales. What is it being backed by? A good demand for SUVs, or what are the trend that you see?
So yeah, we're definitely seeing a trend towards SUVs, but we're also seeing great demand in India. The domestic market has picked up. We're seeing demand there. We're seeing demand in exports. The United States is 30% of our exports, grew by 8%. The EU grew by 3%. Asia grew by 4%. So we're definitely seeing growth play out in India. I also feel that the China One Plus strategy is playing out, and therefore we're seeing a lot of growth. You're right, record numbers. We've had a 33% growth in sales revenue. We've maintained a 30% in export. Our import is almost the same as export. So, we're doing great stuff when it comes to localization as well. And, we hope that this growth continues. And I don't see why it shouldn't. If everything goes as it is, we should see double-digit growth next year as well.
The industry is performing really well because when we see the import and the export numbers, they're almost at par. So, are you kind of concerned when it comes to the China import strategy? Do you think further can be done with respect to that on that front, sir?
Further can be done and further is being done. I feel that we're making big strides in terms of electrification. Electronics. We're making big strides there. We have programs for localization of electronics. We're working with SIAM closely. We work SIAM, ACMA, and the Ministry of Heavy Industries, working with set targets in terms of where we need to be from a localization perspective. And if you look at where we are today, we're currently ahead of what targets we had set. So it's doing well, and I feel that this will continue, and we will continue to localize and therefore reduce our dependence on imports.
How about export trends, sir? America, as usual, remains one of the best markets for us, followed by Europe. Is the industry kind of looking at expanding to further markets beyond these two for engaging exports?
So, we're exporting to almost all markets, and the numbers, if you look at them, they are illustrative of what the volume of sales is of vehicles. And therefore, you see United States at 30% because they're a large dominant player, globally. And we will continue to export to all markets. We're not close to anything. We have one of the good things about India is that we're a neutral country, and that's really played out also in our favor, and therefore we'll continue to export.
All right. The government recently, in a spate of events in the electric vehicle manufacturing is concerned, the government has actually stopped the subsidies for FAME 2 and is actually looking at the continuation of FAME 3 coming up. What do you think? Is it the right time for the government to stop the subsidy, or the FAME 3 should continue? What is your perspective on that?
So I don't think the government stops subsidy. I think the government has withdrawn subsidies from companies that did not meet the criteria. So I think that's a different aspect. And I think, from an OEM's perspective, subsidies do help, but at some point, we need to work without subsidies, and that'll happen. And it's happening across countries. It's how it is.
Do you think it's too soon right now for the government to withdraw? Or do you think could some more time could have been given, or some more support could have been given?
So I think the government's got some great schemes even in terms of PLI. And if you look at the PLI scheme, 67 companies from the auto component industry have been approved. With the criteria that we make certain investments and we make certain investments in future technologies. So again, the government is very encouraging of the fact that we need to invest in technology. We need to localize. The crux of these schemes are to reduce our import dependence, to localize as well as to export. So we need to look at it from an overall perspective.
Of course, towards the end, I'd like to ask you, many industry associations have already written to the government on a separate PLI scheme for electric vehicles. Are you also in support of that? And what kind of a PLI would you want to highlight to the government on your perspective as from ACMA, sir?
So I think from ACMA we're happy with the PLI scheme. We're happy with what the government has, brought out in terms of what their expectations of the industry are. For us, future technologies does mean, in a bit large sense, electric vehicles. So as far as we're concerned, the scheme is well. I think well laid out in terms of what we need to do for future technology investments.
Absolutely. Indian automobile components industry is very well versed with Indian markets. It's thoroughly between the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities as well. Is the industry or the association kind of worried when if Tesla comes to India and brings the Chinese suppliers to India who might have deep pockets but yet do not have a deep penetration in Indian markets? So what's your thought on that?
So I feel that, and I'll just talk generically about OEMs that are in the electric vehicle space. I feel that if they come to India, they're coming because of the supply base as well. While one point is, of course, the market size of the sheer size of the market, but the other factor is the supply base. So I don't see, a threat from Chinese suppliers because we are investing in technology. We are able to, export to electric vehicle manufacturers across the globe, and therefore we'll be able to supply to them locally when whoever comes in into India, whether they be local OEMs that expand in the electric space or foreign OEMs that come into India. We're well positioned to supply to them.
All right. And also, as far as semiconductor is concerned, do you think has the component industry kind of lagged in the semiconductor space? Has it missed the bus, or do you think a further push from the government could probably help the industry to garner that share and eventually move on?
So semiconductor, the usage of semiconductor or the volume that we buy is continuously increasing because the number of chips in OEMs in vehicles is increasing, and I feel that it's a great opportunity for someone to set up a semiconductor facility. There are talks of companies setting them up, and I hope that we set them up because India will require or will have a large requirements for semiconductor chips, and so will companies or countries across the globe have a large requirement. So it's a great opportunity.
Is ACMA going to play a role in semiconductors, sir?
No, we're not. ACMA is really it's an industry body, and our role is really to expose companies to technologies and to technology trends, to OEMs, and stuff like that. And we encourage the manufacturing of semiconductors in India, and I hope companies will take that role up.
Well, thank you, Sunjay, for joining us. Pleasure as always to speak to you. Thank you so much.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.